I know I'll be a couple weeks behind by the time this video comes out, but I wanted to do this anyways. I saw this going around Twitter, and I thought it would be a fun way for me to tell you a little more about myself. Some people were answering these on Twitter, but I'm gonna copy Hoodlumscrafty and Spectre, and maybe other people too, and answer them in a video. I'll try to make my answers quick, but still complete enough to be interesting. So let's get into it. Favorite Pokemon is Umbreon, obviously. It's just a really cute and cool dark type. I love the blue shiny, but I also really liked the shiny in Stadium 2, which had reddish rings that glowed green. My favorite game is probably still Crystal. You'll notice that Gen 2 is going to show up in a lot of my answers. Gen 2 was a perfect follow-up to Gen 1, and Crystal in particular had the first female player character, the Suicune subplot, and just a bunch of other smaller changes that really added up. Favorite spin-off is probably Pokemon Go, unless you consider Stadium 2 a spin-off. My experience with spin-offs is pretty limited, but I love how Go revived the franchise to the general public, and I've been playing it every day since it came out. I'm not a big fan of legendary Pokemon in general, but I'd say this is a close call between Suicune, Xerneas, and Zygarde 10%. Suicune has had a lot more time to sort of settle in my heart, but the other two are putting up a good fight. I'm also not a fan of Mega Evolution as a concept in the Pokemon world, but there are a lot of really wonderful Mega designs. Mega Charizard Y, Absol, Pidgeot, Swampert, Rayquaza, but I have to say that my favorite is Shiny Mega Gardevoir because that black ball gown is perfect. Now, Alolan forms I absolutely adore as a concept. The designs are a bit in general, but I do really like Ninetales and especially Executor. I'm pretty sure this is what Executor would have looked like all along if they could have made it fit. Starters are pretty solid Pokemon, so it's tough to choose a favorite. It's definitely between Greninja and Decidueye, though. I love that they are sort of darker starters and that they are more subtle fighters, as a sneaky ninja and an archer. My favorite region isn't something I usually think about. If we're just talking about the setting, I would have to go with Kalos. I just think it's lovely. But if we're talking about the actual structure of the routes and other things that affect gameplay, then I would have to go with Kanto. My favorite pseudo-legendary is easily Tyranitar. I like most of the other ones just fine, but except for maybe Goodra and Hydreigon, nothing comes close to Tyranitar. I had a shiny one in my original Crystal game, and then that died, but now I have another one in the Virtual Console. Favorite mythical is Mew. I don't have a lot of strong feelings about the mythicals, to be honest, but the mix of legend, science, and just adorableness that go into the design of Mew put it that little bit ahead of the others. As far as I'm concerned, there's only two real rivals, Blue and Silver. They're the only ones that actually make you want to get tough so you can beat them up. But Silver's got the much better character arc since he actually changes at the end of the game. I also haven't given much thought to my favorite professor. Kukui and Sycamore are a bit too showy. Oak, Elm, and Birch are all kind of boring, and I just honestly don't remember very much about Rowan or Juniper. Oh, but I do like how Burnett crossed over from a spin-off into the main series. Favorite gym leader, Elite Four, or Champion is another tough call. Based on just me liking them, I would have to go with Morty or Diantha. But I do really like how the Unova gym leaders actually participate in the plot of the games, and how Charon tells you stuff about what it's like to be a gym leader. My favorite evil team would have to be Team Plasma, because they were the most realistic, I guess. Rocket is pretty realistic too, but they're just kind of basic. I love how Plasma is like a cross between Occult and PETA, and that Ghetsis is actually a corrupt leader who is exploiting a lot of the other team members. Favorite character is another question that I haven't considered much. Silver is great, but I like Red too, and the fact that they made him silent both at Mount Silver and at the Battle Tree was a great nod to the way that you play through the Kanto games. Favorite route or town? Off the top of my head, I like Ecruteak for the history and the architecture, and I like Hau'oli as basically the starting point of your adventure. It's tough for me to comment on soundtrack because even though I love the game music, I have this bad habit of actually playing with the sound off and listening to music from my iTunes instead. But I think the gym theme is my favorite, the Kanto one being the most iconic. Least favorite Pokemon is also difficult because even though there's a lot of Pokemon that I don't like, most of them do have some redeeming quality, like the forces of nature. I really hate their incarnate forms, but their Therian forms are great. But I have to say that Kling, Sock, and Throw don't really have redeeming qualities. I don't have a lot of strong feelings about specific in-game battles, but I do like the battle with Silver at Mount Moon. You've technically beat the game at this point, so it's a bit of a surprise to get another rival battle, and it's the conclusion of his character arc, with his Golbat having evolved into a Crobat. Dark type is my favorite. I like most types pretty evenly overall, but Dark gets the edge because it's got a good number of great Pokemon, and I'm dead inside. My favorite move is definitely Disarming Voice. It does emotional damage. I just picture the Pokemon whispering, "Your parents never loved you," and I love it. I can't say I have a favorite ability really, but I do really like how Technician makes weak moves viable and how you can really mess up an opponent's strategy with a surprise magic bounce. I don't play competitive too much, so I haven't developed any attachment to a lot of items, so I'd say the Lucky Egg is my favorite because I really hate grinding. Z-moves are like Mega Evolution to me. I don't really like them as a concept in the Pokemon world, and that big title splash on screen during the animation I think is a mistake. But I do really like the animations for Let's Snuggle Forever and Stoked Surge Surfer. And finally, my favorite shiny. Now, there are a lot of really great shinies out there, so I'm just going to pick from the ones that I actually own. So besides Umbreon, obviously, and the shiny Mega Gardevoir that I brought up earlier, I would have to say that shiny Greninja is my favorite. Now, I don't have one yet, but I did recently hatch a competitive shiny Froakie after over 2,000 Masuda Method eggs. And it was on my birthday too, so I'm super happy about that. So there you go. I want to know what your answers are too, so make sure to leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also reach out to me on social media. The links are in the doobly-doo. I'm Umbreon Libris. I'll see you in the next chapter. And subscribe if you... Subscribe. It's fine. I'm still recording. It's like a Sean Connery subscribe.